Welcome in, welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast Live. Yes, indeed. Here we go. Wanted to get on the show here and discuss a couple of or three topics that kind of interested me today. Share my thoughts on those with you. I know it's an abnormal time. If you notice, I'm kind of bouncing around in terms of trying to find the right time, see who I can reach at these different periods and whatnot. So just getting on here. So what I'll do is I'll give a few minutes, see if anyone pops up in the chat, and then if not, we'll go ahead and get it going. But yeah, like I said, just had some thoughts. I think I got a pretty interesting show here today. With some interesting topics. Obviously, we got the Jets, we got Deshaun Watson, which is like, whoa. And then got Tyreek Hill. So definitely interested to share with you what was on my mind regarding these topics. And part of the reason I'm going a little earlier tonight is obviously because we got the big presidential candidate debate later on. So I want to sit back and watch that. Contrary to popular belief, it's not always sports with me. So, yeah, definitely want to check that out when I get done here. So it's not that serious. What's good, bro? Good to see you. Good to see you. So yeah, like I said, got these topics here, and I wanted to just come on to the show, go live, and share them with you and see what we got going. Yeah. So all right, looks like we got some people starting to come in. Slowly but surely, they're trickling in. So you know what time it is. You know what we do. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't. This one was another one, man. Like, if y'all know me, I really prefer to keep topics like the sport itself, right? I don't like all the extraneous stuff that goes on outside of the lines or off the court or off the field or what have you. But unfortunately, those are things that all have to get addressed. Why? Because they affect the league. They affect the product that we see. They affect the players that we love to watch, and all that kind of gets intertwined, right? And so, there was a time I used to think that all that matters is what goes on the field or between the lines. And that's not really the case, because these extraneous outside things can affect what happens between the lines. So it has to be addressed. So Tyreek Hill, one of the most explosive, one of the most dangerous wide receivers in the league, one of the most explosive and dangerous wide receivers we've ever seen, right? He's, in my opinion, in terms of explosiveness and danger, I think he is almost as dangerous as Randy Moss. Not quite, but almost. Randy Moss was just as fast. Difference is he was like 6'4", right? So he could high point the ball and be even more dangerous in those type of situations than Tyreek Hill is. Meanwhile, Tyreek Hill can catch a short one and take it to the house, right? The effect availability, absolutely huge impacts. Absolutely. So why am I bringing up Tyreek Hill? Not yesterday, today's Tuesday. So Sunday, Tyreek Hill was on the way to the game, and he was stopped and briefly detained by police in Miami. And that became a thing because obviously Tyreek Hill is a black man in America, and we know there are some issues with that in terms of the way black men are often treated by law enforcement in this country. Like, it is what it is. Now, does that mean that every cop is bad or every cop has nefarious intentions with every incident involving African-American men? Absolutely not. But we're all kind of taught and trained and mentally conditioned with the things that we see to interact, or we should be, to interact with police officers in a very specific way. But sometimes we don't, and that can turn bad, right? So before I even do that, so why do we kind of feel the way we do as black men in America in terms of interaction with law enforcement. And before I even get to that, let me say personally, Bruce Hope, host of the Format Podcast, I have never in 46 years on this planet had a negative interaction with a police officer. I can say that. Now, among my circle, black friends I have, black men, etc., many of whom are professional, highly educated, etc., I'm the only one who can say that. So I'm aware that I am something of an anomaly in terms of having had interactions, being pulled over, being stopped, or have you, but never having a particularly negative interaction with police officers, law enforcement, right? But that said, many African American men have, and it gives them, a legitimate fear and influences how they behave in said interactions, right? And so, why do many black men feel that way? All right, so data indicates this. I was looking this up and preparing for this this topic earlier. So here's some stuff, right? Data indicates that black men in America experience a disproportionate amount of violence during police interactions. Studies show that Black Americans, particularly Black men, are more likely to experience threats and non-fatal use of force during police encounters compared to other racial groups. For instance, Black Americans had the highest rates of police handcuffing, threats of force, and physical force in cases where police initiated contact. Okay, more. Black men in America are statistically more likely to have a fatal encounter with police compared to other racial groups. Studies show that Black Americans, who make up 13% of the US population, accounted for 27% of those fatally shot and killed by police in 2021. This means Black people are twice as likely as white people to be shot and killed by police officers. Now, I know there are many people, and I'm not the guy who generally gets into the whole race thing and all that. That's not me, right? I really do believe in letting individuals demonstrate to you who they are, right? Whether it's individuals of a particular racial persuasion, individuals of a particular occupation, etc. That said, and whenever I get pulled over, I'm very forthcoming. I'm very upright. I'm very, I try greatly to comply. Even before they get to the car, like say I get pulled over for speeding. I got pulled over for speeding a few times. Before they even get to the car, when I see them behind me, rolling down the windows, I take everything out, the license, registration, insurance, and I have it there and ready. And I put it on the dash, and then I put my hands 10 and 2, right, on the wheel. That way, no one can say I'm reaching for something and they were concerned what I was reaching for. Everything is controlled. I try to be as courteous as possible to the officer. Why? Because they're in a position of authority in that situation, and you don't want any static. You just don't, right? So, yeah, so there's that's me personally, right? So anyway, research from Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health found that Black Americans are 3.23 times more likely than white Americans to be killed by police. Another study highlighted that Black men face a 1 in 1,000 chance of being killed by police over their lifetime, compared to about 1 in 2,000 for men in general. And so there's a lot of people out there who want to say that it's a myth about Black people being in more danger from the police, et cetera, et cetera. Like, for instance, if you listen to a guy I listen to a lot, Jason Whitlock, I agree with some of what he says. I disagree with a lot of what he says, but I try to get, I'm a person that tries to be fair and listen to both sides of things. But he's a guy that constantly pushes back against the concept of systemic racism and, Black people dealing with totally different situations in terms of their law enforcement encounters. But all the numbers, all the studies prove that, right? But anyway, this is interesting too. I would also, I would also recommend that anyone listening, if you are cool with a police officer or you have a police officer you can talk to, because I actually have a very good friend who's a cop and he's NYPD, and we had a long talk over an hour this morning, really breaking down this whole situation and his thoughts on it, because obviously he's been in numerous stop situations and numerous situations over a nearly 20-year decorated career as an NYPD officer, right? And detective. And so we had a really long talk about this, and he kind of opened my eyes to things from the officer perspective. And, I'm not going to quote that conversation here because I don't remember enough of it to quote it and give him justice and fairly quote what he was saying. But I would suggest to you that if any of you listening have friends who are in law enforcement and who are officers, talk to them about this, get their take so you can kind of see from their perspective what it is. That doesn't necessarily mean that you will agree at the end, but it's always good to get that other perspective. Yes, believe me, people say it's a myth. Absolutely. Yes, there are a lot of people. The aforementioned, I mentioned Jason Whitlock. He says it is. And matter of fact, I think his show today, he talked at length about Tyreek Hill. I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but based on previous commentary he has spoken about in terms of Black people and interacting with the police, etc. He carried, and I'm not trying to make this political, but he definitely carries the water for the right. And so, yeah, check that out. But yeah, he's one of those. And there are other people like that. So yeah, back to the Tyreek Hill thing. So we know that when you, as a Black person, when you interact with police and law enforcement situations, especially when they're pulling you over, etc., you get nervous, etc. Now, I've said all that. Let me flip it. My immediate thought when I heard about this, even before the body cam footage came out, this is the other day, my immediate thought was, I have a feeling. It just struck me. I had nothing to go by, but my immediate thought was, I have a feeling that Tyreek Hill got mouthy with the cop when they tried to pull him over. I just had that feeling, right? There was nothing to go on by that. But then we got the body cam footage. I guess it came out yesterday. Came out either yesterday, yeah. So, I watched some of it, and I think the whole body cam footage is like 27 minutes long, but I have about a 2-minute clip of it to show you. So let's check this out, and then we'll come back and discuss it further.
Hey, don't knock on my window like that, man.
Why don't you have your seatbelt on?
Don't knock on my window.
Why don't you have your seatbelt on?
Don't knock on my window like that, no.
Like what?
Don't knock on my window like that.
Why you have it up?
Don't knock on my window like that.
Why you have it up? I have to knock to let you know I'm here. That way you can lower it and talk to you.
Just get my ticket, bro, so I can go. I'm finna be late, gang. Do what you gotta do.
Keep it down. Hey! Keep your window down. Hey! Keep your window down. Keep your window down. I'm gonna get you out of the car. As a matter of fact, get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Give me that. I'm gonna break that front window.
Get out of the car.
I'm finna get out.
Get out of the car right now. We're not playing this game. Get out.
Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. What part of blood do you understand? Hey, Drew, I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting arrested. I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting out, bro. God damn, twin.
When we tell you to do something, you do it. You understand?
I'm getting out.
You understand? Not what you want, but what we tell you. You're a little confused.
I'm getting out, bro.
Too late.
Chill,
Too late.
All right, bro. Take me to jail, bro. Do what you gotta do, bro.
We are. We will.
Good, bro.
It is good.
Hey, Drew, hey.
Don't worry about it. I hung up the phone. You stop crying.
Hold on, bro. I just had surgery on my knee. I just had surgery on my knee, bro. I just had surgery on my knee, bro.
I just surgery in your ears when we go there and put your window down.
Chill, bro. Hey, Joe New, bro.
Back up.
Hey, call Drew. Hey, call Drew. Call Drew, bro. Call Drew. Hey, call Drew, bro. Hey, what? Hey, call Drew, bro. Just call Drew.
So yes, Hispanic cop, and I think you and I were on the same page when you said you assumed the same thing. Figured he talked slick. So here's the first thing, right? I actually listened to and watched a longer portion of that video. So when the guy comes up and he's knocking on the window, and Tyreek's like, "Why are you banging on my window like that?" So the first thing the guy says is, the cop, he's like, "Well, I have to knock on your window to let you know I'm here," right? Yeah, exactly, Sneed, exactly. It started off bad with contentious energy, ended with aggressive cop doing the most. This America, right? So this is interesting, right? So Tyreek is like, well, why are you banging on my window? So first of all, if you notice, his windows were heavily tinted. So, okay, if you're the cop, you're saying roll the window down. Remember in my earlier soliloquy, I said, when I get pulled over, the first thing I do, roll all the windows down, right? And my cop buddy that I was talking to earlier today, he always says, he goes up, he says, roll all the windows down and turn on the dome light, right? Okay, cool. That way you can see everything that's going on in there. So if I'm the cop, he's got the windows rolled up, they're heavily tinted. I don't know what's going on in there, right? He could be armed. I don't know, right? So there's a safety component there. I don't know what's happening. So roll down the window. So he says, time to roll down the window, roll down the window. He doesn't want to roll down the window, right? So now we have issue of compliance, right? You're not. So I'm looking at this. A lot of this, I believe, could have been avoided, right? With a little bit of courtesy and following directions. Okay, cool. So he doesn't want to roll down the window. And then he's like, you know what? Forget it. Get out of the car, right? Okay, so now I have to take control of the situation. And again, my cop buddy is explaining a lot of this to me. I have to take control of this situation. I have to make it a situation where I feel like, you know, there's safety involved. So they get him down on the ground. So my question to my buddy was, yo, listen, did it take, 3 or 4 of them to get him down? And he says to me, bro, you don't understand what it is, when you're dealing with a grown person and you're trying to subdue them to get the cuffs on. It's not easy. He told me one time he had, a female who was very aggressive and going at him, and he had a cuffer, and he's a big guy. He's a bigger guy than me, probably about maybe 6'3", 240. And, he had a heck of a time trying to get this. It took him and his partner to get this squirming, skinny female down and cuffed, right? So it looked bad that there were a number of these cops doing this, but he's explaining to me, and again, I'm not trying to explain away what we just saw in the video. I'm telling you some of the perspective that was explained to me by a veteran and decorated NYPD detective, right? So anyway, he's saying that, it's more difficult than it looks. So he's like, first, they put him down to subdue him because they have to ensure that they take complete control of the situation and safety. Now they got him there. So the next thing is, so I'm like, okay, they got him down. Why did they have to pick him up just to go sit him down on the curb again? He's like, well, so my buddy says, well, they got to get him into a situation where you're thinking about the safety of him, you're thinking about the safety of the officers, thinking about the safety of anybody possibly involved, right? So you get him, and sitting him on the curb is the easiest way to get him to a safer spot. So they stood him up because obviously he was laid face down, and then they want him to sit down. So it's like, listen, just comply. Now, could they have been a little more patient with his compliance? Yeah. But what my buddy says is, when he escalated the situation, once the situation gets escalated, it's really hard to back down off of that, right? And the back down is not going to happen from the officers in play here until they feel like their safety, the safety of everybody around, and the situation is completely secure. So I see both sides. I see it the way, and he gave me a much more in-depth breakdown, including situations that he's in which he's been involved over the years, his thoughts about it, how he assesses it as a police officer in that situation, et cetera, et cetera. And, like I said, he and I talked for over an hour this morning regarding this, and I hope I'm not misquoting you, bro. But I'm just giving kind of quick synopsis of some of the things that you told me. Anyway, so with that, I think immediately you see these videos, not just you, but you, me, all of us as people, we see these videos, and the thought is, wow, we got these going over the top, and the way they were talking, it's like, okay, these dudes are definitely out here trying to flex. Because I'm thinking, first, you knew that this was Tyreek Hill once you had his documents, right? You knew who this was. And when you ran his plates, chances are you knew who he was as well. So it's like, was all this really necessary? And again, the flip side, Tyreek Hill probably could have made this go a lot more smoothly from the very beginning. Officer, listen, I know I was speeding. I'm trying to get to the game. I'm late for the game. I'm fully aware I was speeding. Give me the ticket. I'll take care of it. Thank you. I mean, that simple, right? Does that mean it would have gone as nicely as that? Maybe, maybe not. But what's the old saying? You catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right? So maybe you have a better chance of it not escalating to the point that it did if you were, again, more compliant and more courteous. I think that has, something to do with it. And again, I'm not blaming it all on him, because I do think maybe there was some, like you said, some extra aggression and testosterone from the law enforcement officers here. But on the flip side, probably could have been avoided. What'd you say, Sneed? I think it's insanity. They haven't engineered and designed more effective detaining devices. We have incredible tech across all parts of life except this. Yeah. I think maybe the bigger departments with larger budgets are more so able to do that. But Well, this was Miami, so you got to assume Miami's got a very large budget. They deal with a lot of murders and a lot of violent crimes and a lot of drugs and all that. But I think a lot of the police departments throughout the country, their budgets aren't able to support what you're talking about, Sneed. So anyway, yeah. So obviously, when you heard him, Tyreek Hill yelling, "Call Drew, call Drew," the Drew to which he was referring was his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, who shortly, if you watch the whole 27-minute video, he showed up there later. I don't know if he let, cops securing the outer perimeter know who he was, because he was able to walk right through and talk to his guy. And I believe Drew Rosenhaus is also a lawyer. So, you don't want to mess with lawyers, right? A lot of these high-powered agents are also members of the bar. They're also lawyers. So yeah, this whole thing, I think it was crazy, man. It was crazy. But so just watching this, a lot of people are up in arms. I heard Chris Canty on Unsportsman really going off about this situation or this morning. I believe Stephen A. Smith had something to say about it. I know obviously Rob Parker and Chris Broussard had something to say about it, and I'm going to play that for you right now, and then we'll come back and talk a little more before we wrap up the show.
All right, Rob, what was your feeling on once you saw the body cam?
I always thought that there had to be more to it, right? And
yeah, because last night Tyreek after the game said he wasn't disrespectful,
right,
and didn't curse, and he didn't curse from the moment we saw, but he was disrespectful,
right? And Chris, this when you're when you're dealing with the police, and you got to be careful, right? Because as soon as you kind of cross that line, then you give them the right to do stuff like they did, put you in handcuffs and say that you're not being following instructions and whatnot.
Right.
You got to be.
And they said he was uncooperative,
right? And you got to be. And Chris, that's it. Like, it's not like I've never been arrested, but I've been around and I've seen cops act nasty towards people. I've heard, you know what I mean, and things like that. But in this case, he had every reason to me to be like, you're right in your work environment. You could have made this thing probably a lot easier, right? And saying,
well, let's describe. I mean, for those who may not have seen the body cam, well,
can we play it or no?
I don't know if we could.
Okay, but go ahead.
Play it.
Describe it.
So it looked like he was speeding. I can't measure the speed, but when you see the body cam, right. First, you see his car, right, and it looks like he speeds by, and then so a cop on a motorcycle follows him, tells him to pull over because he's speeding. Tyreek pulls over. He's in, I don't know, it looks like a Lamborghini or something. I don't know what it is. But he's got tinted windows. It's a black sports car with tinted windows. So the windows are up when the cop goes, to the door. And so he knocks on the window, and Tyreek rolls it down a little and says, don't be knocking on my window like that. He says it a few times. And then I think Tyreek says something to the effect of, just do what y'all got to do. I'm gonna be later. I'm going on my way or whatever. And then he rolls the window up, and the window, remember, is tinted. So the cop is like, roll the window down. And Tyreek rolls it down a little bit, and then said, don't be telling me what to do. Don't be telling me, and so he won't really roll the window down he's not rolling it down all the way.
And the reason why, the whole thing with tinted windows is, and I'm not saying in this case being a current athlete, but tinted windows, somebody could have a weapon.
Oh my
know
gosh.
what I mean? Right.
100%. If I'm a cop,
right,
and you got tinted windows,
I don't know what you got in there.
Roll the car
right.
Down, why'd you roll it up? To get something?
Right.
I don't know. Right. And
I'm just saying. Right.
Right. No, I that's exactly why you want the person to roll the window down.
Right.
So I can see that
there's a reason why
getting something. Right. It's not just flexing. And so, then the cops ultimately are like, they start, pulling rank because you're being disrespectful, and they pull him out of the car, and that's when they throw him on the ground, handcuffed him. He didn't curse. By that point, once they pull him out, he's kind of being more, submissive, I guess. But they put him, that's when they had him face down, they cuff him, and then they bring him over to the side. And then a second cop comes over, and he's being excessive. The second cop is like unnecessary. Well, and you're right, Rob. Did he need to cuff Tyreek?
No.
You can argue, yeah, he didn't. But once you start acting like you're disrespecting the authority of the cop.
Once you do that, you give them the license, Chris,
right,
to act that way. If you don't do that, I can't say again. There's a good chance you're not going to be in handcuffs.
Yeah. So a lot of what I said earlier was kind of echoed by Rob and Chris, and man, it's really tough. And I think that part of what you deal with in this situation, it's a hard road to walk as a black man in America. It's also a hard road to walk as law enforcement, trying to do your job, trying to do it right. But I don't know, man. It's really tough. Chopper, what's good? I think you're new here. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, man. If you're enjoying the content, I don't know how long you've been here, but if you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe, and make sure you share the show. And obviously, we're live right now. You can go back and watch the whole thing later. But yeah, this whole thing is crazy. It's definitely something I wanted to talk about. I think there's error on both sides in this situation, but also having had the opportunity to really talk it through in depth with, again, a veteran and decorated member of the NYPD to kind of give me his thoughts on this whole situation from a law enforcement officer's perspective. Really, I thought that was good. And I would suggest that if any of you have that opportunity to talk with someone in a situation like that, please do so, because it's always good to be able to see both sides of a situation, and not just to put our own personal biases, experiences, and perspectives and opinions on this stuff. Appreciate you, Chopper. Appreciate you. All right. So what I'm going to do, I've been talking about this for a while. I thought it was important for me to come on and give my commentary on it. But I am going to, at this time, for this the final topic, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put the phone number back in the chat, 904-219-8264. And I'm going to open up the phone lines one more time. I would love for anybody who wants to call in, give me your thoughts on this Tyreek Hill situation. I definitely would love for you guys to share that with me, because it's something I've been giving a lot of thought to since it happened. All right, let's go. Tyler, what's good, my man?
Bruce, what's up, brother?
Chilling. What you got?
Hey, I got to make it quick because I'm on a little bit of a business trip. But,
okay.
First things first, my family is, we've got some police officers. My Uncle Dan, he's the reverend at my wedding. One of my closest people in my entire life, love him to death. 30-year veteran of Baltimore City Police.
Okay. I know he's seen a lot. Sneed, call me back, man. Call me back after this call.
Yeah, he's seen a lot. And, once I talked to him about this, he said, you got these young guys who are just covered in tattoos and they're big with muscles and everything, but they are soft. They are
okay.
soft. He's walking around. He's about 6'6", red hair, red beard, and they throw him undercover. He's been there 30 years. You don't think he's arrested everybody and generations through that area of West Baltimore.
Right.
But everybody knows who he is. He gets called every name in the book. He's fine with it. You know what I mean? These guys act like being rude is a felon. Tyreek, if he was being rude, he's had, some run-ins with the law and things like that. So I think maybe, he's not an angel, but, he wound his window down. He basically said, "Stop banging on my window." And, for that, he got yanked out and roughed up while in cuffs and everything else. And, they showed a couple different angles with Calais. If you put the Walter Payton Man of the Year in handcuffs just for kind of standing there, they said back up behind the car. He backed up behind the car, and then the officer with the hand tattoos came over and cuffed him too, and then cuffing Jonnu Smith and everything else that happened.
Right.
I mean, it's just you could tell they're right next to the stadium. They're surrounded by a Lamborghini, a G-Wagon, and then you got I was shocked to see Calais Campbell's big self sitting in a damn Tesla, but you're in no danger. I mean, the officers are standing there going, "You know who this is, right?" I don't know if you heard the audio, but they said, "You know who this is, right?" And they said, "No." So this is the Dolphins star player. He said, "Oh man," like he knew it was over. He knew the body cam was going to be hit.
Right.
So, what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill? What if I was just another guy who got pulled over by the police, thrown on the ground? If a guy, isn't sitting down quick enough, you jump out of your shoes to come over and, while handcuffed, force him to the ground. I mean, it's just, there's no really, it gives a bad name to, so many good officers out there who are, serving and protecting. And I think people in general, especially being from Baltimore, we're kind of jaded with some of this stuff, but we all try to see the good in things, and life is full of lessons, like Sneed said earlier. And this is going to be a real lesson for these guys, because they've already retained some high-powered lawyers, according to ESPN, and they're going to be fighting, to stay employed. But it's a real uphill battle. I've already heard things coming out of Miami that, they may now rely on state police to police the area around the Dolphin Stadium instead of Dade County.
Okay.
That'll be kind of bad news for that department. You know what I mean? That's an enormous area. So that's my feedback. I'm interested to hear what you got to say. I mean, we're all level-headed people. I'm former military, just like a lot of people on here, yourself included.
Yes, sir.
Who has an understanding of, authority and what comes along with authority, and, rules of escalation and rules of force, and, how to gain compliance and de-escalation and everything like that.
Yeah.
Just if anything, there needs to be a class on de-escalation just across the department. Because the last thing we need is another one.
I agree.
This could have went bad.
Yeah, it could have. I really wish that I was able to more effectively convey more of the discussion I had with my buddy earlier, because it was a really good talk. And that's why I'm saying, like, obviously you have this opportunity, as you mentioned, your uncle, but a lot of people don't want to really take the time to sit down and talk with. And again, I'm not trying to cape up for these officers here. I'm just like, I really try to be very objective and look at both sides of things, and being able to hear a totally different perspective on this from the law enforcement side when the video looked that bad. It was really good, and it was kind of eye-opening for me. So that was cool too. Right. And I have some uncles that are longtime law enforcement officers, and I'm probably going to end up calling one tonight or tomorrow to get his thoughts and his take on this whole situation. I'm sure he'll have some good stuff to say about it. But yeah, I appreciate your call, Tyler. Thanks so much for your feedback on this topic, man.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
No doubt, man.
You got it.
All right, Sneed, go ahead. I saw you were trying to get in, man. Give me a call. Sneed.
What up, Bruce?
Yes, sir.
Hey, that was a good call, man.
Yeah, I thought so as well.
Good perspective. Solid. Yeah, the action that takes place in this situation, and you have like testosterone up the wazoo. You have an NFL player who is paid tens of millions of dollars per year.
Correct.
Who literally feels like he's King Kong. Everybody tells him how great he is. Everybody tells him how unstoppable he is. He's out of his element already. And, he's thorny. He's spiky, and then the beginning of that footage. And then you have a cop who, like, let's be honest, man, they're humans, and they've had previous experiences in their lives.
Right.
They could have been bullied as children. They could have been bullied as young adults.
Yes.
Now they're in a position to do the right thing, but they're doing the wrong thing. And it's a tit for tat. And one has a badge and the other one doesn't. This has to be the most volatile interaction in our society.
Yeah, I'd say
police, yeah, police and highly accomplished men. Like oh my God, man, that is tough. I've seen good cops, the way they handle certain things. They're really relaxed.
Yeah,
that guy was not relaxed, right? He was uptight. He was angry. He was amped up. There was venom in how he was speaking, moving.
So what I'll say about that, let me interrupt you for a second, is on the longer version of the video, he doesn't start out that way, right? He walks up to the car,
sure.
and
Right.
as you know, as I said a couple times earlier, when it's me, obviously I'm not Tyreek Hill and everyone's different, but when it's me, as soon as I get pulled over, the windows go down, I get out the stuff, I put it on the dash, and my hands are on the wheel. That's it. Immediately, I'm already taking precautions to limit any extraneous movements I may have to do, to limit any extra requests that the officer is going to have from me, other than, you know, license, registration. Do you know why I pulled you over? Right. I'm trying to minimize all of that. You know, yes, sir, no, sir. It's not that hard. Right. And so when Tyreek Hill in the longer video, when that happens and he's got the windows up, heavily tinted, the officer can't see. He doesn't know what's going on. So the officer's knocking on the window, not banging on it, knocking on it. He's like, why are you banging on my window like that? He's like, well, I have to let you know that I'm here. Right. And the officer at the very beginning seemed relatively courteous, but those type of situations, to your point, can go bad quickly. So, yeah, I hear you, though.
Tyreek Hill wanted a situation. You know, the way he was acting, he wanted smoke. He thought he could handle the smoke. He didn't think it was going to escalate that much, probably. But it did, because it can. When you play out these scenarios in your head, you have to assume that the worst outcome is possible.
Exactly. It shouldn't be that way, but it's the smart way to go about it. Remember
in this
the movie Training Day?
He was irresponsible, right?
Yeah. Remember Training Day when Denzel was like, you want to go to jail or you want to go home? You know, in any interaction I have with the cop, all I'm thinking is I'm trying to get home to my family. So let me just, you know, make this go as smoothly as possible. And that doesn't mean they're all out to be nefarious or do something bad to me. But, you know, I'm just like, okay, let me do what I got to do and get out of here in one piece, you know?
I do it, you know, when I get pulled over, I just assume I got a bad one.
Yeah, and it sucks.
That's just the baseline. Like, that's my baseline assumption. If I get a good one, cool, that's a blessing. But I just assume I'm going to get a bad one, and I just roll from there. That's how I play my hand.
I can agree with that.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate you taking my call.
No doubt, Sneed, man. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it.
Right, brother.
Chopper here, he says, and I'm about to let you guys get out of here. Chopper says, and this is actually a decent comment. He says, when you get pulled over by people with guns, you're not in charge. Best to shut up and be humble. You can take them to court later and y'all have credibility. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? You can't, you probably just, you know, do the best you can to get out of that situation in one piece. And again, it's messed up that we even have to think that way, but that's the best way to go about it. And again, am I saying that it was right what happened to Tyreek Hill? No. Am I saying it was wrong? No. Now that I have a better perspective from the other side, it's just interesting. But for those of you who've been here, man, thank you for your participation in the chat. Thank you for your calls. I appreciate you. If you haven't already, make sure you guys go ahead, hit that like and subscribe on the way out. Make sure you're sharing the show. Like I said, this was just these topics were things I wanted to jump on here, and I wanted to discuss and give my thoughts regarding. And so I know it was an odd time, but I wanted to make sure that I don't know if I'm the only one who wants to watch the debate later, but I definitely wanted to make sure I was done well in advance of that. But so we should be doing a show tomorrow night, our normal Wednesday night show, to be about 7 or 8 o'clock. I anticipate that. But yeah, we'll be back with you, and it should be the whole crew, me, G, Transformer, and hopefully Tyler. He will he will be a more regular and new addition to our merry band of men. I guess isn't that what they call the Robin Hood's crew, the merry band of men, whatever. But yeah, he should be joining the team, so we're looking for that. Let's go ahead and we'll end it here. So again, thanks for stopping in, thanks for watching the show. Appreciate y'all, and I'm out. Peace.